Hello, I'm David Webb, and tonight I am going to be making a live video of the fourth game in this year's US-UK Internet Scrabble tournament. This is a best of 9 series, and it currently stands at 2-1 to the US. Tonight's players are Jeff Thievenot of the US and Ed Martin of the UK. This is the fourth year that the US-UK tournament has been run, and the UK has won 2 tournaments and the US has won 1 tournament, but the US has the lead in this year's tournament at 2-1, the first to 5 winning the series, although all 9 games will be played to determine the margin of victory. And they're off. Excellent. And it's Ed Martin of the UK who gets to play first. We can see his clock ticking down in the top left corner of the screen. The first consideration with any rack is to decide if you have got a bingo, which is a play using all 7 of your tiles. And I cannot see a bingo with Ed's rack. He will therefore probably be looking to score well and to leave a reasonable rack for his next play. Ed plays high, H-I-E, leaving R-I-C-E as his rack leave, which is a good rack leave from which to replenish his rack. Over to Jeff now, and Jeff does not have quite such a nice rack. He's only got 1 vowel, the E, and he's got some awkward consonants on his rack with the B, the F and the P. Jeff will be pleased to see an S on his rack, but his problem is going to be sorting out his rack quickly. In other words, he wants to get from here to being in a position that he can play a bingo, and it's difficult to sort out this rack in just 1 move. Perhaps fib, F-I-B. Down here would get rid of the 2 most awkward consonants, but it doesn't score very well. I remember when I was playing Jeff in the first game of this year's tournament, he took several minutes in making his first move, and he's doing the same here, and he plays beefs for 15 points. It's reasonable playing off the S when you've got 2 S's on your rack. The S is a great tile, but having a second S on the same rack doesn't add a great deal of value and can hinder you. We're now looking at Ed's rack, and he has got B-crime, B-E-C-R-I-M-E. I'm fairly sure that's a word, but we can check it, and we see at the bottom here that I have checked the word becrime, and the program has returned becrime equals valid, and that means that Ed can play becrimes across here. Be Crime will also play across here and across here. But it's this position onto the S which scores the most, with the B being placed on this triple letter square. Let's see what he does. Well, Zooglia has expressed my sentiments precisely. Does he know Be Crime? Indeed, he does not, or he's not sure of it. And one reason for that may be that he is thinking in his mind of the word begrime, and is wondering whether he is perhaps confusing becrime with begrime. We won't know because the players are incommunicado while the game is being played. Now Jeff, having had a horrible opening rack with a B, an F and a P, and apparently a real issue as to whether he could sort his rack out, appears to have sorted it out immediately, and he's now looking at a splendid rack with many bingo possibilities, such as Spanner. Which he could play down here. And that hits the double word score. But there's probably a better move than that. Let's see what our railbirds are coming up with. Mitsurugi is suggesting Saponine, across here, which is very nice. Grace Kais is replying by saying that Spanned is better. And we've got Quizify suggesting Panniers, in the same place as Mitsurugi was suggesting Saponine. I'm sure Jeff is going to play one of those moves. But he's a fine player and he will be looking to play the best of them. And he plays Panniers. Back with Ed. Ed does not have a bingo rack. He has, however, picked up the Z, which he will be hoping to score well with. He's got a couple of high-scoring tiles, H and M, but he's also got some duplicate tiles, a duplicate R and a duplicate E. He's going to be wanting to improve his rack and get rid of some of the non-bingo tiles. Let's think about what options he has. Well, one of the new words that has recently been added to the Scrabble official word list is ZEP, Z-E-P. And that can be played down here onto this P, putting the Z on this triple letter square. Now that scores 34, which is good. The downside of that is that he leaves the duplicate R on his rack, and 2 high-scoring tiles. And the problem with leaving 2 high-scoring tiles on your rack is that it diminishes your bingo prospects for the following turn. Whereas if you leave just 1 on your rack, then that has a less detrimental effect on your bingo prospects. Now our railbirds are suggesting Umzi and Herm. And Ed plays Herm for 30 points, which is a good score. It gets rid of the 2 high-scoring letters, H and M. It gets rid of the duplicate letters, and it retains the Z. So overall, that looks a pretty good move. Wow, that's quick. Jeff loses no time at all in playing Groovier. He must have been praying for Ed to play an R, and his prayers have been answered. That gives Jeff a lead of 103 points. And Ed will be ruining his Becrimes miss. If he is aware of it, and he will retrospectively rue it when he does learn of it. But that's the game. All players make mistakes all the time. There have been various computer programs that analyse Scrabble games, and I have used 2 of them since this tournament began several years ago, and although the field of players is usually very strong, with everybody competing being of world-class standard, the average number of points lost in each game is about 50 points a player, which just goes to show that even at the very top of this game, people make mistakes all the time. That makes the game fascinating to watch and very frustrating to play, because you know you are making errors, and yet you are spending all this time and effort learning words and trying not to make errors. Right, that's the end of that little sermon. Let's have a look at Ed's rack. Well, he's only got the 1 vowel, which is bad. He's got bingo E tiles, and he's got the Z for scoring. So Ed is going to look to, I imagine, play off his Z, score well, get rid of 1 of the duplicate T's, and hope for a bingo next go. What's he got? Well, the railbirds appear to be suggesting Zloty, and Zloty plays down here with the Z on the triple letter square, and I think that opens up an S hook down here, which ordinarily would not be a good thing, but since Ed actually has an S, it becomes a good thing. And that's exactly what Ed has done. Let's turn the volume up a tad so that we can hear when the moves are played. Let's just check that Zloty does take an S, because I'm not 100% sure of it, and it doesn't. Right, well, that's interesting. I wasn't sure of Zloty's. I thought it was good. I wonder whether Ed and Jeff know for sure that Zloty does not take an S. We shall see. Well, after a couple of nice bingos, Jeff has got a definitely non-bingo-y rack with 2 U's. But he does have the X, so he is in a position to score well and improve his rack. But what can he score with this rack? Going back to the railbirds, we've got Pooh, who is another member of the UK team, suggesting Durum or Durum. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. And I imagine the suggestion is that it goes here, putting the M on this double letter square. I should just mention that Pooh is Helen Gibson, and today she has won £1,000 by winning the Cock of the North Scrabble tournament. So well done, Helen. And good luck in Mumbai, where you are representing England in the World Scrabble Championships in the beginning of November 2007. Well, there don't seem to be too many other suggestions apart from Durum, but it's a fairly obscure word. If Jeff doesn't know Durum or is not sure of it, I wonder what else he may be considering. Well, Jeff has played mix. Now that move definitely looks suboptimal because he has kept the 2 U's on his rack. So that looks like a mistake from both players in this game, with Ed missing B crimes and Jeff playing mix rather than Durum. Back with Ed, he has got an awful rack, no vowels at all, and the Q. Is there an A for Ed to play QAT? There doesn't appear to be. Ed can put the Q here. Now, the good thing about that is that it gets rid of the Q and it blocks his opponent from using this triple word score. The bad thing about playing the Q is that he leaves himself with 6 vowels, including a duplicate T. And QI only scores 11 points, so Ed has a bit of a dilemma, especially given that he's 100 points behind. He needs to catch up quickly, and that means he needs a bingo quickly. Ed plays Nitty. It gets rid of 4 constants, which is good given his consonant-heavy rack. It does mean, however, that he retains the Q on his rack. We'll have to see whether he's picked up some decent letters to enable him to get rid of the Q next go. He would certainly like to have one of the U's that Jeff is saddled with. Jeff has 5 vowels on his rack, including the 2 U's. But this is a reasonably easy rack to sort out. There are words such as EUOI and OURIE, which can help resolve his surfeit of vowels. The U is such a poor letter, however, that Jeff may well be looking to get rid of both U's. The railbirds are as brutal as ever. Look at this heartless comment from Aphasiac. Mix was bad. Thank you for that observation, Aphasiac. The 2 suggestions from the railbirds seem to be Owry and Rouet. Owry is being suggested across here, and Rouet was also being suggested in the same place. Both moves look reasonably good, not very much between them. Ed has got a nice rack apart from the cue, and he's lost the place where he could have played it last go. He may well be considering a change of tiles at this point. This is quite an agonising position for Ed. Changing his letters means he scores nothing, but he's 110 points behind, so he would certainly like to be scoring with this rack. Unfortunately, if he does score, he loses several of his bingo-y tiles, and he's still left with the cue. Magic Hour is suggesting ditching the Q and the L. And Mr. Phil, who is Phil Appleby, is pointing out that Ostler is a pretty good leave. The implication of that being that Phil is suggesting just changing the Q rather than changing the Q and the L. And Ed changes 2 tiles, which we can't see which 2 they were, but almost certainly the Q and the L. And A. Phasiak is immediately suggesting Kludgy. Now I don't know if that's simply on his rack or is playable. Let's have a look. I can't see anywhere that Kludgy actually plays, but it is a nice word. And one of our railbirds has popped up to tell us that a kludgy is Scots for toilet. The educational value of Scrabble should never be underestimated. Guiled, good score, 34 points. Well, it looks like Ed did get rid of the Q and the L last go. He's challenged. Ed has challenged Jeff's move of Guiled, and it's come back as valid. So Ed is now 140 points behind, and having got rid of one non-bingo-y tile in the queue, he's picked up the J, which is another non-bingo-y tile. But the rest of his rack is bingo-friendly. One possibility is to play Gion down here, leaving NRST on his rack, which is not good, keeping 4 consonants and no vowels. It's also not good because if he uses the E, there's only 2 E's left. And the E is a very good tile to keep in terms of playing a bingo. Right, there is one very nice suggestion from the railbirds. Jongs down here, which puts the J on this double letter score and then doubles. Ed doesn't play that, he plays Gion, which I think is probably inferior to Jongs. And Jeff picks up the second blank, which means he has had both blanks in this game. He's 110 points ahead. He's got the second blank. We're 2/3 of the way through the game in terms of tiles, and Jeff is in a pretty good position. He's going to be looking to keep the scoring going and improve his rack where he can. He plays Yowie for 22. And Ed's rack is not good. So he went from last go, of when he had toners plus a J, and he looked on the brink of having a bingo, to having a really rather grim looking rack, which he's now got to get to grips with. And I think Ed's hopes of winning this game are ebbing away. but I'm sure he will be endeavouring to maximise his winning chances, however slim they may be. And the railbirds are not inundating us with suggestions. Two I can see are iCats and iCans. Now where are they suggesting that those be played? Oh yes, I see. Across here. Now that's very nice because it puts the K on the double letter square and then triples it. So we're looking at 42 points for that. And then this bingo lane is opened. Now that's a good move from Ed. He plays iCats. He's opened the bingo lane I've just mentioned onto the S, and of course there are bingo lanes open through the A and the T of iCats as well. Let's have a look at Jeff's rack. Now he's got the blank, which is the most bingo friendly tile in the bag, but he's also got the C, the W and the P, which together are not good. But they are good tiles for scoring well, and Jeff is not needing to get a bingo, so he'll be looking to score well and get rid of some of those high value consonants. A very easy way of doing that would be, as Tokoloshi suggests, playing PAW across here, also making ya and ow, and that would leave CID blank on his rack, which is quite a reasonable leave. I wonder what other options are open to Jeff. I don't know how anxious Jeff is about maintaining his lead. There are two strategies when you're 100 points ahead. One is to seek to go further ahead and just press on with scoring, and the other option is to try and prevent your opponent from scoring. So to follow that strategy, you would sacrifice score in order to close down bingo lanes. So how worried is Jeff about the iCats opening? And if he is worried about it, what can he do to block it? Ken Jim has made an interesting comment down here. Whoops. He's saying the C is going to kill the Sennachi extension, which is a bit of a cryptic comment, but what he's referring to is the fact that were a player to have the right letters on his rack, he could play Sennachi across here, which really would be quite beautiful. But I think we're unlikely to see that in this game. Jeff is certainly taking his time over this move, but he's still got 8 minutes left on his clock, so he's not in time trouble at all. And it's sensible to use all the time you have. And Jeff does play poor, and Ed has a rack from hell. Possibly one of the worst racks I've seen in quite a while. We can just imagine the horror that's going through Ed's mind as he contemplates this rack. He is 120 points behind, and this rack is just ghastly. It's so bad actually that it's really just a question of deciding which letters to exchange. And he changes 5. We're back with Jeff, and Jeff undoubtedly has a bingo with this rack. I can't instantly see it, but I'm sure there are many choices, and our railbirds are immediately suggesting scolding. Down here, and this is game over. Jeff is going to get a bingo, and the US are going to win this game, which will give them a 3-1 lead in the series. And there it is, scolding. Ed has gone from having no vowels to having 3 A's. There are only 15 tiles left in the bag. It is inconceivable that Ed can win from this position. It may be possible, but the possibility will be negligibly small. A peppercorn. Ed has probably accepted his loss and now switched into the mode of minimizing the extent by which he loses. Not the most fun to be had in this life, but it is what he needs to do at this stage. But it's not actually easy to see any good candidate moves with this rack. There are no hotspots that I can see where he can place his F. I suppose one possibility would simply be to play FA across there. Scores 20 points. It does leave the duplicate A on his rack, but with the E, N and R, it does have some bonus potential. But there are very few opportunities on this board for playing a bingo. This is probably the most promising bingo lane. And Ed plays A double F down here. And we're now back with Jeff's rack, and he plays Outrage for another bingo. An excess of bingos from Jeff. Jeff has become bingo crazed. Groovier, Panniers, Scolding and Outraged. 4 bingos in one game. Very nice indeed. I've no idea who Bats of Doom is, but I think he speaks for everyone in the UK when he writes, "Oh my God." I think Ed has played reasonably well in this game, apart from missing the bingo be crimes. And the trouble with missing a bingo early on in a game is that when you become aware of it, you can't help but think, well, what would have happened if I had played the bingo? Would I have gone on to win the game? And you will never know. So it just remains there as a possibility in your mind, which you need to put out of your mind when you play the next game, because you need to be giving all your attention to the game in hand, not thinking about what could have happened if you'd played a different word. Ed plays Anna, and Jeff has picked up the Q, but he has picked up the U with it. Now, were there to be a floating S, Jeff could have played Serve Qual, which is one of the more interesting of the new words to be added to the official Scrabble word list. There isn't a floating S, so he cannot make that play. But with the tiles that he has, I'm sure he has many candidate moves which score well and get rid of the queue. Let's see how many people have been watching Jeff's triumph tonight. And we've got 126 people currently watching. It's 10 past midnight in the United Kingdom. Nobody appears to be making many suggestions for Jeff, but frankly it really doesn't matter what he plays. He's 244 points ahead. This is a massive victory for Jeff. It's a tremendous result for the US. It means they're now just 2 games away from victory in this series. They will have a 3-1 lead after this game, and it's the first to 5 who wins. And we do have a suggestion from the Railbirds. It's been suggested the play of Qua, Q-U-A, down here, and that's a nice play. Scores over 40 points. And what more can you ask for? One possibility which Jeff ought to be considering is the tiles that are going to be on Ed's rack, and it looks like Ed finally has a terrific rack because the 9 letters that are left are fabulous in terms of bingo creation. So Jeff may be very sensibly trying to consider where Ed might play his bingo and play so as to obstruct Ed's efforts to play it. And I think Qua would actually assist in that because it would obstruct this bingo lane through here, which is the best of the bingo lanes available. It has been mentioned that Jarrow site is a possibility across here, which indeed it is, but there are probably more bingos through the A of iCats. So I think I would probably play Qua. Let's see what he's done. He's played JA. Jeff clearly was worried about the Jarrow site possibility. Ed's got a great rack, and he's got radiates down through that A, which Qua would have blocked. So was Jeff's move of JA the best? We won't know until we analyse the game. And I think it's nice for Ed that he does get this bingo at the end. Playing a bingo is always nice. And there it goes, radiates for 74 points. Ed is left with, or Ed draws the last tile in the bag, which is an I or an L. I'm not quite sure which that is. Well, let's just do a quick L count and find out. There's 1 there. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 4 L's accounted for. Therefore, this little baby is an I. Ed will definitely be going out with his I. There are several places in which he could play it. He can play Sin across there, or Tid across there, or IS down here. So Jeff is looking to maximise his score with this rack. And by maximising score, I mean maximising the score after taking into account the letters that are left on your rack. Because after Ed goes out, the value of those tiles will be added and deducted from each player's score. So it's a sort of modified best score that Jeff is looking for. The QUA possibility has gone, and so has the QAT possibility. And I'm having a look at the railbirds, see what they're suggesting. The suggestions seem to be quell at K2, and that is very nice indeed. That's across there. And he actually plays Evo, which is strange because it keeps the Q on his rack. I really do not understand that move at all. Why would he keep the Q on his rack? I wonder what possibilities there were apart from quell. Perhaps he couldn't see an opportunity to play his Q, but I'm sure there were several places. Anyway, that is the end of this game. Ed played JAI at the top of the board here for 10 points, and Jeff wins the game by 511 to 341. A comprehensive victory. Now let's do what we did on previous videos, which is to have a very quick whiz through the game and see if there were any missed bingos. And Ed is... whoops. Ed is commenting, didn't know be crime, might have all been different, and I suspect he has immediately gone to this facility which I'm going to run through now. There it is, be crime and be crimes. Agony of agonies for Ed. Now, penemies? That is an extraordinary word because, it's not penemies, it's pen names. I was going to say I've never heard of it, but I have heard of pen names. Moving on, there's Groovia. These possibilities being suggested here are simply in order of score. It's just a list of the highest scoring moves, not necessarily the best moves. So this is no substitute for proper analysis, and we will use different software to do the full analysis, but that will take a couple of hours to run. This is just a quick and dirty check for missed bingos. And apart from be crimes, there were no missed bingos, so well done to both players. In particular, well done, Jeff. That's a terrific victory for you and the US team. And that is the end of this video. I hope you have enjoyed watching it. And if you have any comments, I'd be very happy to receive them. Thank you and good night.